Welcome to Simply Caroline, a podcast dedicated to women empowerment where we will discuss a bunch of different subjects such as life, parenting, love, business, money, relationships, healing, recovery, addiction, entrepreneurship, and so much more. A podcast I'll do my best to keep simple, fun, and relatable and bring you tools to help you better your life. So thank you for being here. And here's your host, myself, Caroline Blanchard. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're still brand new in 2023. And yes, I will have something a bit different this year. We will have amazing men as well that will come to help us, learn about different subjects, or men that are all in to empower women. So today I have Steve Gamlin. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing great, Caroline. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I love your radio voice. That's typically a radio voice, like super soothing.
Thank you very much. I was on the radio for 10 years, but the funniest part was I didn't have the courage to be on a microphone until about the 8th year. And believe me, I did not have this voice at the time. I had zero confidence, wanted to be a DJ, but I would get nervous and I would just go back to being a producer.
Oh, that's interesting.
So this voice is actually not lifelong. Believe me, I've worked on it a lot over the past 20 years since I left radio.
Okay, so, I wasn't going to go there with the podcast. Today we're talking about vision boards because Steve has a very special way of doing them and it's really working for him. So we will try to steal all of his good ideas and manifestation. But I want to go back to this, what you just said there, because I find that interesting. You said, I didn't used to have that voice. How do you work on a voice?
What you need to figure out is what your unique natural voice is. See, I spent most of those years wishing I had the guts to be a DJ and get on the microphone. But when I finally did, I tried to sound like all these other DJs. I would make my voice higher and faster and, not like the ones like, hey, everybody, we'll be right back on the flip side of these moneymakers. I never did anything that corny, but I wasn't me. In one morning, I had to fill in for our morning DJ who had quit. And my boss said, well, go give it a shot. You've been doing this for a long time. And I just tried to sound like everybody else and was failing. And one time I just threw up my hands and I said, hey, everybody, Steve here, New Hampshire's Classic Rock, Big 101.5. I may stink as a DJ, but if you tolerate me reading the weather for the next 42 seconds, I'll play you a great rock song. And I just sat there shaking my head after I go, oh, that was the worst. My boss came in and he goes, brother, that was the greatest thing you said all week. Man, just be yourself. And 20 plus years later, I still remember that exact moment because then I just shared who I was. And it's worked for me ever since. And I kept it locked up for so long because I just didn't have the confidence.
I love that authenticity. It's true that it's really what works the best. And you remind me of me a little. Well, I have something very similar. Like when I try to do everything perfect and when I plan and all of this, most of the time it goes horribly wrong. And I'm not saying that everything goes perfect when I don't do that, but it goes better because I'm not, sticking to a script or I'm not trying to be something else. I'm like, well, it's me. And whenever I trip in my words, I will trip. And then, if people want to close a podcast, they will just press stop. But, I think that people relate to imperfection way more than, perfection. And quite often what we're trying to be is not necessarily what's the best either. It's just, we in our own view decide that, oh, I want to be like this person. But I've known, like, I found out after years of talking with a lot of different people and a lot of, high people who had high-end positions or celebrities or things like that. And when you talk to them, really, they're like, yeah, I don't really like this about me. And you're like, what? You don't? So we all have our insecurities. So even, wanting to be like someone, you don't know what that someone thinks really about themselves. So be yourself. I love that. So tell us a bit, how did you get into radio, and then how did you get out of radio?
When I was 11 years old, now I've got a few birthday candles on you. When I was 11 years old, there was a TV show called WKRP in Cincinnati. It was a comedy about a fictional radio station. And I saw this guy named Dr. Johnny Fever, who was a DJ. And when I was 11, I said, oh my gosh, I want to do that. He speaks on a microphone. He plays music. He talks to people, and he gets to wear black t-shirts and jeans and sunglasses indoors. And I just thought he was so cool. So I wanted to do that. I also wanted to be a stand-up comedian because Steve Martin was very big at the time. I wanted to write my own books because my mom instilled this great love of writing and reading in me. And I also wanted to be a teacher of people, but not in a classroom, because I had an amazing fifth grade teacher who would always encourage me to coach and mentor and tutor the other kids if I got done my work early.
Mm.
So all of those things when I was 11, I wanted to be. And in my early 20s, I got into radio. And in my mid 30s, after working 15 years worth of hours in 10, I was so burned out, I just jumped out of radio. Because twice during those 10 years, a radio station got sold, we all got fired. As hard as we worked, we all got thrown out the door. It happened a second time. And I heard rumblings that it might happen at the third radio station group that I was working in. And I said, look, I can't do this again. And I just quit without a full-time job. So my entrance into radio was nice and smooth and wild-eyed, and my exit was very abrupt. And with it, my entire life fell apart. My first marriage ended. I was tens of thousands of dollars of debt at age 35 and had to crawl home and live with family for a little bit to start to put things back together. And all of that really bad short time period of my life led to everything I have now, because I learned about goal setting, visualization, vision boards. And so it all came from when I was a kid, visualizing what I wanted to do. And I've been a speaker for 18 years. I did stand-up comedy for 7. I published 4 books, and I get to coach and mentor people to help them create happier, healthier versions of themselves.
That's amazing. And we will come back to this in a second, but I do want to point out one thing that you said, is that kids do visualize way better than adults. And I think that one of the reasons why they do that, and the one who taught me visualization is my, my oldest daughter, because since she's 2, like when she wants something, she sees it, and she had dreams that were really out of our realm of possibilities, and they all happen. But since she's little, she's like, when she wants something, she just goes for it, period. And I think it's because kids don't have limitations like we've put on ourselves. They still have the purity of the innocence of like saying, I want to be Superman. And for them, it's completely feasible, and they will become Superman as adults will think that 1 second, and then we'll think, well, no, it's not possible. That would be silly. And then all the negative talk starts, and we kill our dreams that way. We kill our I can't say it this morning, but we kill our vision that way by all the self-talk. So when you lost everything, and it's easy to say in one sentence, like I lost everything and then I started goal setting and visualizing and all of this, but how did it really happen? Because it's not that easy when you're at your lowest to start goal settings.
Yeah. It all actually comes down to one moment in August of 2003, in the midst of the ashes, and just very mad at myself for being the person who wrecked it all and blew it all up. And I had $3 in my pocket on a Friday afternoon, and it was super hot and humid here where I live in New Hampshire. And I went to a mini golf place that had a little driving range. So for $3, I got a big bucket of golf balls. And I was just taking out my frustrations, hitting them as hard as I could. Now, I'm a horrible golfer. So I went to the farthest tee box on the property, which was against the netting, so I wouldn't damage anything in the parking lot. But I was also under these big, huge steel-towered power lines. And a thunderstorm happened. So everybody but me ran from the storm. So I'm sitting there in a thunderstorm in the pouring rain, barefoot in the wet grass, under power lines, hitting golf balls as hard as I can. And even held up the club at one point, just looked up and said, "Go ahead, I dare you." Just being sarcastic. The next day I was having a conversation with a brand new life coach I just started working with. And he said, "How was your week?" And I said, "Put down your pen and listen to this." And as funny as I could make it, I told the story of that hour. And when he stopped laughing, he said, "I got to ask you a question. Are you this open and honest about it yourself with everybody?" And I said, "Yeah." "You ever thought of being a stand-up comedian or a motivational speaker? I think you'd be great at both." Within 2 weeks, I was in a stand-up comedy class. A week after, my first Toastmasters meeting. And he said, "Have you ever heard of the law of attraction?" Because The Secret, the DVD version of The Secret, had just come out.
Mhm.
And he said, "I think you would love this." And it became part of my platform as I was beginning to learn about the law of attraction and how to really set goals and manifest things. There was 3 minutes in The Secret DVD that talked about this thing called vision boards. A guy named John Assaraf was talking about them. And I was so fascinated by that 3 minutes that I
Mm.
made that my mission and my platform as a speaker, as a coach, and wound up creating my own program about how to teach other people how to do vision boards.
So my version of vision boards is girlfriends that get together. We usually do it on December 27th or 28th, and we
Mm-hmm.
didn't last year. Well, just in 2022 for some reason. And then we cut out pictures out of magazines and words, and we glue that on a Bristol board.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
What's your version?
My version goes a bit deeper. That sounds like a lot what people say, "Oh, we're having a vision board party." Now, the problem with that is what you do, because you're with a group of people you know, like, and trust, and your friends, and you support each other. There are a lot of people out there who just attend these parties where they know anybody. And it says, "Oh, we'll have wine, cheese, crackers, scissors, glue sticks, glitter, magazines, vision boards." And they just don't go deep enough in a lot of those, especially if you do it one time and set it and forget it. They don't go deep enough. So what I decided to do was just follow the notes of my journals, because I've been journaling hardcore for 30 years. And when I was struggling through, I said, "Well, okay, I get this vision. I have a picture. Nothing's really happening. Maybe I should create an action plan behind the picture." And somebody said, "Well, why do you want that?" And I just said, "I don't know. It's my life stinks right now. This would be good." And they said, "Well, you need to have an emotionally connected why to something you want." And it just started to fall into place, that this process that I developed with a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, helped me to grow roots underneath my vision and really strengthened it, so that when the winds blew really hard trying to get me off my path, I could stay stronger and more connected to it. And the biggest difference is the depth that I go and I take my clients through when they are building vision boards.
Yes. And, I'm going to ask you to dig a bit more into that, like being emotionally connected to your why. Because I coach people too into, goal settings and dreams and vision. And quite often we hear, "Oh, I just want to be rich." And to
Yeah.
who doesn't want to be rich? Like, let's face it, who doesn't want to?
Yeah.
But rich for you and rich for me and rich for someone in, a poor country is all very relative. It's all very different.
Yeah.
And you're the expert on that. I'll let you dig into that, onto the why it's important to really be connected to your why, over and above. I want to be rich. Like, let's
Yeah.
take that goal, for example. I want to be rich.
Yeah.
If I told you that, how would you coach me?
Okay. Right before I get to the why, my first question is, what does rich look like, feel like, sound like, taste like, smell like to you? Like how do you represent rich in your life? And what I try to do with people is to help them to understand, the more senses you can attach to it, the more emotional you can make it, the more you can see it and feel it, and just close your eyes and it's there, and you feel what it's like to have it, so that you know who you need to become in the process. You need to be acclimated to being a rich person. I could hand you $10 million in a lottery, but if you have a broke mindset, if you've been living your life on the ragged edge or in debt all these years with bad financial habits, you're not going to be rich for long. So it's a matter of attaching the senses, of really feeling what it would be like to be that. And then when I ask your why, See, the why is the gas in the tank. The why is what's going to keep you going when the world and all the forces of average out there try to knock you off your path, or when people come up to you and say, well, Caroline, why do you want that? You tried before. You failed at look at you failed at all these things before. What makes you think you could do it now? First off, get those voices out of your life, or at least out of your head. But the why, when you dig in, and I can almost guarantee if I said, Caroline, why do you want to be rich, that your first answer would not be the real answer, because we have those easy, ready-made Hallmark moment answers, the cute ones. But then when we dig, about a year after I became a speaker, a good, trusted friend of mine said, why do you want to be a speaker? I said, because I want to help people. He said, why? And all I did was flip the words. I said, because people need help. And he laughed and he goes, no, why? It took 17 tries. And I got very emotional. I had, little tears starting to come down. I said, you know what? I got into radio when I was 24 years old because I was broke, depressed, living on my grandfather's couch. And I had this friend named Danny who kept asking me, why didn't you get into radio? Man, the happiest I ever hear you is when you're talking about music or playing music at our parties. And why didn't you do it? And I finally ran out of excuses, borrowed $4,000 from my grandfather, went to broadcast school in the summer of 92, got an internship at a radio station we'd grown up listening to. Internships don't pay anything, by the way. And I drove to Danny's house at the end of the summer. And I said, hey, man. He goes, where you been? I said, I was living down in Boston, going to broadcast school. No. Yeah. Did you get a job? Get an internship at WCGY. Oh my God. And he got, I got the, I'm proud of you, but also I told you so, which your friends will tell you when you follow their advice.
Of
And
course.
3 weeks later, Danny passed away. He was 23 years old. He'd
Sorry.
had cancer and it came back. And when my other friend, a year into speaking, kept asking me, why, the emotions hit. And I said, I had a friend who believed in me when I didn't. And I was struggling. And I just listened to him and I took action on the faith that he believed in me, and something amazing happened. I said, as a speaker, I want to be that person for anyone who's in my audience. Somebody who's sitting in the shadows, not believing in themselves and struggling and has nobody else to believe in them. I said, I want to be that person as a speaker, as a coach, as a program creator, as a writer, as a radio personality. I want to be that person for everybody else. And he told me, don't ever forget it. And here we are all these years later. And when people ask me why, that's the story that comes out, and I relive it and I get emotional all over again. And I miss my friend so much, but I also thank my friend so much for believing in me when I was just a lost kid.
Beautiful, beautiful. And yes, we can hear the emotions. And, that's when you listen to someone and you're like, oh, this person is so good at painting the vision. I've heard that before. Or someone else will talk to you about a project and you're like, there's nothing for me, because they're not emotionally attached, or they're not painting the vision. And it took me a while to understand, like, what does it take to paint the vision properly?
Yeah.
But I think that there's no tricks. It's like you need to be passionate about what you're painting as a vision, and you need to really feel it. And that's why, I could be talking to you about a construction project, and talking to you about, helping people in sobriety, and paint two different vision, because I'm not into construction at all, but I want to come back to one thing that you said, because that's one thing that I'm still working on, and that I know that a lot of people are working on. When you talk about the law of attraction and manifestation, if it would be as simple as it seems, everyone could do it. But you need to be on the right, wavelength, and you need to be on the right vibration. But when you're broken, and let's say you're super broke, you have a hard time paying, your phone was just cut, you have a hard time paying your rent, and how can you put yourself in the vibration of feeling what it is to be rich when you are in that dark moment? And I think that that's where a big disconnect is for people trying to, do something or plan something, is that they can't connect at that level.
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely understand. And the first thing I say to people is say, here, let me get that shovel out of your hands, because what you're doing is just digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And believe me, I've been there. I was at that low point. And what somebody said to me one day was, stop asking the question, oh, how much worse can it get? Because the law of attraction is going to giggle a little bit, and then it's going to deliver you something worse, because it's what you asked for. Now, it doesn't mean, I want to be rich, that all of a sudden somebody's going to show up on your porch with a limo, a bunch of balloons, and a giant cardboard check. But if you're very aware of your thoughts, if you're very aware of the words you use, especially your self-talk. Now, I come from decades of negative self-talk, putting myself down, tearing myself down. I could do it with humor. So some people were blinded to it. Even I was. But I was so damaging to myself over the years for the self-talk I used. So your thoughts, your self-talk, your language in general, and your actions, if you continue to put negative energy out there, all you're going to recognize is the negative things that show up. And it doesn't mean you wake up every day and say, hey, everybody, every day above ground's a great day, like a circus clown. It just means we start off in the mirror in the morning and say, look, I'm going to make something good happen today for myself or someone else. I'm going to talk to myself positively today. I look in the mirror in the morning, I said, dude, we're going to make something cool happen today. High five. Literally do that. I learned that from Mel Robbins, famous speaker and author and coach. The high five. I do that to myself every morning, and I'm off on a positive direction. The more you do that with intention, and not just being silly, fake positive, but you legitimately find the positive, create more positive words, leave as many situations as you can all day long, better than you find them, with a little tiny plus sign in your wake, hold the door, pay a compliment, make somebody smile, laugh, say thank you. The more you do that, the more your eyes don't stare at your shoes or the floor or your phone. You're looking around, you're aware of opportunities, you're aware of connections. You say to yourself, hey, if I just did this, it might put me in a better place. And then you do. And all of a sudden you're seeing different people, you're hearing different things, and you hear things differently. All these opportunities are there all day long. But when you plug into the right energy and frequency with the right attitude and the right heart and the right mindset, you increase the odds that you're going to attract and be aware of and plug into the better outcomes. But if you just start with what else can go wrong, like I said, law of attraction is going to giggle and go, we got a live one here. Let's throw some more garbage their way.
Yeah, I'm laughing, but it's not funny, but it kind of is, because it's true. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I can't remember how long ago I've heard that. And it's still something I'm working on as well, because I think it's always work in progress, but to ask the right questions. And that's where a lot of people fail. It's because we do ask questions like that, like what else can go wrong, or whatever. I'm not gonna give a list here because there's so many and I just don't want to say them, but we don't ask the right questions. And it's to find the good questions to ask to really get the right answers, because the universe doesn't recognize, positive from negative. It just recognizes what you're talking about. Like, oh, I'm so sick of being in debt. You may think that you're sending the message of like, I'm sick of being in debt, so I want to be out. But really, what you keep repeating is talking about your debts, So how do you, let's go back to the visual board, the visual board. How do you do that, like as a craft, or tell us how you build it, and what do you suggest after it being built? Because that too is like with my girlfriends, it's really cool, but then I hear some being like in April being like, yeah, I just finished it finally. Okay, we're 4 months later. But
Yep.
or me cleaning in December and finding my board from the beginning of the year that we did. So what's the whole process after? It's not just a question of making it.
Yeah. No, excellent question. In the program that I created, it's called Vision Board Mastery. There are 10 steps. There are 10 modules. And so many people come to me, especially this time of the year. Hey, Steve, I went to a vision board party. Did you finish your board? No, I'll get to it. And then, like you said, April, maybe the end of December, they look back and they go, oh no, those were supposed to be my goals for the year. So what I do with people is I work inside of 8 major areas of life. And if you Google life wheel, personal development, you'll see something similar. I've just tweaked and adjusted to my way. Your goals, I believe we should each set at least one per year. Your physical health, your emotional well-being, your relationships, your core values and ethics that guide you every day, your faith and spirituality, if that's an important part of your life, your connection to the world in a real way, meaning are you feeling isolated, anxious, depressed, or are you actually connecting with the world enough? Your career, and of course, your money and finances. And then assess where your life is right now. If you're a descriptive person, throw some adjectives out there. If you're a numbers person, scale of 1 to 10. Evaluate where your life is right now in each of those areas. And then think 1 year in the future. Where would you like it to be? Now, don't go writing the number 10 on all of them because that's probably impossible. I won't say it is, it might be. But think of the improvement you'd like to see in each of those areas in 1 year. And then go to why you want that improvement. And don't just say because my life stinks right now, because it would allow me to do this, because I'll look in the mirror and I'll love myself. I'll like myself more, respect myself, because it will mean I'm a great example to my kids, whatever the why might be. After all that, I encourage people to go somewhere quiet with a pen and paper, several pens, because you might go crazy and run one dry, which I've done. Brainstorm the wildest vision you can imagine of what it would look like, feel like, sound like, be like, and who you need to be, and just go wild with potential goals. Then pick the ones that touch you the most. And if you have 3 competing in the same category, go to a mirror, say them out loud, look at yourself in the mirror. The one that makes you smile the most, start there. Then find pictures or words or quotes or mantras or create your own hashtags or go take photographs. Gather them, figure out what's most important in your life. That's your center for the board. Now, boards that I usually do, I think they're 11 by 17 inches. They're not huge poster boards. And then move them around so that they tell a story. Whatever's most important goes in the center. You're going to very quickly realize that all 8 of those areas of life are happening 24/7. And they're all interrelated. For example, if you take your physical health, if you eat better, if you exercise, if you stop over consuming things that are bad, you get better sleep. You get better sleep, you can work harder. You work harder, you can make more money. You get more money, you can earn more freedom. And if you do it in a very ethical way, in alignment with your core values and your faith, if you do everything in an ethical way, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You're not creating enemies. You're doing this in such an honest way that you're creating abundance and you're helping other people. So all of these areas work together. And afterward, put the board where you can see it every single day. I have clients who keep theirs in their bathroom. And as they're getting ready in the morning, they look at the board. And I tell them, pick one picture and tell yourself, I'm going to take one step toward one picture today. And tomorrow I'll pick another one. What that helps to do is reduce the overwhelm of looking at a board going, this is a lot. Little at a time. Take a picture of it, make it the wallpaper on all of your electronic devices, print out a copy of it, fold it up, put it in the visor of your car if you spend a lot of time in your car for work. And every time you're going for a meeting, or if you have a break, or if you're having lunch in your car, look at it and say, all right, this next conversation, I'm going to get closer to one of my goals. I'm going to make a connection here. I'm going to help somebody. I'm going to add value. I'm going to call home right now or text my partner, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, and just say, hey, I'm really glad you're in my life right now. All these little things. And some people go, it seems like a lot of work. Hey, they're all working together anyway, 24/7. Wouldn't it be a good idea to have a little more control over where all these areas of your life are headed?
Yeah. And when we say it's a lot of work, getting out of pain or dealing with chaos is a lot of work too.
Yeah.
It's just, we do it because we don't have a choice when we're in it. But the price of discipline is not as high as the price of regret. And that's so true. So there's one thing that, in business, I heard so often in my trainings. And I just want to point this out again. You said, look at your goals and pick the one that makes you smile the most. And that's the one you need to work on. For me, I was trained into the goal that scares you the most. So complete opposite word
Yeah.
uh, is the one that you need to work on.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah, but see, there's a great validity to that. It could be the one that you've put off the longest that maybe seems the most intimidating to you. Because sometimes
Mhm.
when people are afraid of something, they go, "Oh, I can't." Well, what happens? The monster gets bigger and bigger and bigger and won't even fit under the bed anymore. Now the monster's in your closet. Now you can't even go get your favorite shirt because you don't even want to wander to that corner of your room. But see, that's a great point to say the one that scares you the most. The things I put off the longest got the scariest, and a lot of times what wound up happening when I did achieve them or reached out to somebody who could help me to achieve them, I'd look back and just shake my head and go, really? That's what I let intimidate me all that time? Using my own voice on a microphone? Off to the races. Come on. I haven't shut up since.
And I'm sure you had people telling you like, what were you scared of? Like you have a
Yeah.
beautiful voice and blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So kind of downplaying all the worries you had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I know. And the thing is like quite often, looking at a dream board, and I think that that's why a lot of people don't finish it. And that's just I'm throwing it out there, but a lot of people don't finish it because they want it perfect, or because it seems so far-fetched that they're like, it's kind of a piece of art that we've created.
Yeah.
And that's why I love having you today. It's to talk about, yes, doing a dream board is so important. Like mine at some point was all color coordinated.
Mm-hmm.
So didn't mean necessarily that, everything on there fit what I really, yeah, to some extent it did fit to what I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
but the aesthetic of it and the look of it, knowing in which room I would put it in was more important. I don't think it was conscious, but it was. That's what I was doing. But yeah, doing a dream board goes way beyond just doing something pretty. And I'm talking
Yeah.
for us, mostly women. I think that, we want it pretty, and aesthetic is important, and it has to fit, and you don't want a space on your dream board that is bigger than the other one. So flip it around and really work it the opposite, the other way, like you just mentioned, with intentionality, but way above um, just looking at good, just looking good, because I think that that's exactly when you have this super pretty, like mine that year was all in turquoise and blue and white. It was gorgeous. But then I looked at it and I felt like, yes, it's things that I wanted, but it was almost too far-fetched because it
Mm-hmm.
looked too perfect. And I was just like,
Yeah.
my life is not, will never be that perfect. Like I have 3 kids and 3 dogs right there. You know, my life will never be perfect.
Yeah. It's going to be loud. It's going to be messy. But, in loudness, there's also laughter. There's love. And there's just great conversations and connections you can make every day because you just look at your dogs, and even if you just had this thing, it always makes people laugh. If you talk to your dogs and your kids the same way, you're going to go, "Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?" And I've had people say, "Oh my gosh, that's my hashtag." And they would print out in Word and create it with cool font and colors, hashtag "Who's a good boy." And they
That's
said
so
every day
good.
when I read it, oh my gosh, they said it makes me smile. I'm like, well, put it on your board. Really? It's not a goal. I go, emotional well-being. If there's something that makes you happy and joyful and laugh every day and brings out the best in you, why wouldn't you want to set that as a goal? Come on, stop just throwing Lamborghinis, yachts, mansions, private jets, helicopters, big honking jewelry, and in a vault full of gold bars. It's like what I used to call the vision board starter kit. You can actually go on Amazon, and I think for about $25, order a vision board kit. It will already have pictures of all this material wealth on
Wow.
it. And I would never do that. It's not up to me to tell you what your goals are. Now I help people shape the vision for their goals, but I don't tell them what they should want. They'll ask me questions and I'll help them get it clear. But even hashtag "Who's a good boy," I'm still laughing over that. And that was years ago with one of my clients.
I know, I love it. I didn't even know there was a hashtag, and I will absolutely go
Yeah.
Google it after, like
Yeah.
when we finish
Oh,
this
I just
podcast.
tell people create their own hashtag. It may not even be an existing hashtag, but
Oh, I'm
I
sure
always
it
say,
is. I'm sure it is.
whenever I have negative people in my life, I always say the same thing. I go, oh yeah, hashtag up yours. Because it makes me laugh and it gets me away from the negativity. I don't stew over it and I don't get drawn into it. I don't fight with people like I used to. I just say hashtag up yours and I just go off on my own path every day. And for
Do you
something as
think that's
simple
part
as
of
that,
like getting older too?
probably, yeah, I'll be 55 this year and a lot more focused on where I want to go versus the people who are trying to derail me. And look at what happened over the past 3 years with the pandemic and all of these things. And I use this story a lot. So we're all trying to improve our lives. We're all climbing up a mountain. Well, a giant clump of trees fell on our path. Now, 20, 30 years ago, when I was in radio, I would scream and yell at the trees and probably want to punch them. Now I just look and I go, huh, well, how tall can these trees be? Can I climb over? Can I dig under? Well, they got roots and they got treetops. If I just walk enough to the left or the right, I can get around them and keep climbing up. And I might actually even find somebody really cool on another path to walk with for a while who might inspire me to do something a little different or better. And plus, I get to share the view of the summit with somebody cool. And I used to focus on the trees. Now I just focus on getting back in a place where I can keep climbing.
I love this analogy. And the reason why I ask you, do you think it's a part of getting older as well? Is like for me, there's stuff that I'm realizing daily. Like, yes, I'm approaching my 52, but 50s too. Um, but I remember when I was younger, older people telling me, like, you won't care about these things later. And I was just like, well, it's not because you're old that I'm going to get boring like you and not care anymore. And,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. But now I'm like, it's such a beauty getting older because, yes,
Yeah.
those things generally stop mattering this much and you start seeing life differently. And I don't know if it's just, some people or every people, but you start not to care anymore that much about going into doing groceries in your PJ pants. That's, especially since the pandemic, it seems like PJ pants are acceptable everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like how you just said, the analogy. It's like you start seeing things differently. And I'm telling to everyone out there who's 20 or 30, it's getting better. Yes, you get older, but there's so much getting better with it that comes with it. And one part is, I guess, the wisdom of knowing that it's going to be okay because you've survived until that
Yeah.
time. So it's going to be okay. But, let's close on really what we open with, the vision board. What is the number one tip you would give to everyone? Because I know that in January, first of all, there's the ones like, my groups that did it end of December and that will finish it by end of June or something like that. So I know that we're exactly in the right moment to talk about that, the whole January. What is the one thing that you would leave people with?
Figure out what you talking to you right now really want. Not what society tells you should want, not what other people say you should want. Figure out what you want. We don't all want the same things. And like you said earlier, rich means something different to everybody else. So think in all those different categories of your life. What do you want? And if you have to go sit somewhere quiet, pen, paper, and a mirror, even, I like to go to the ocean for this.
Mm.
Just write, just get it all out and think of the best, most successful, coolest, strongest, most passionate version of who you are. Start there. That's a really good place to start. And most people won't do it.
No, and I love what you just said there. Don't think about what society wants or what you should be wanting. I know that when I got sober 10 years ago, it was really not a cool thing. I was an alien. So, I think I started putting it on my dream board, sober and strong, probably just like 5, 6 years ago,
Yep.
because I wanted to put it on at first, but I was thinking like, who's going to be looking at that vision board, and what if they ask questions and blah blah, and it's not even cool to be sober and strong, you know? Well, no, I was just calling it sober back then.
Mhm.
But the point is, it doesn't have to all be what society think it is, like to have a million follower, to have the gold waiting in the closet, to have, a walk-in full of clothes. Like for me, I hate shopping. So a walk-in full of clothes is not on my dream board. I'm like, no, I would have to shop or whatever, anyway, or decide in the morning what to wear. So you're absolutely right. Don't go with, what you think society would want you to want. And that comes back to the whole authenticity thing that we talked at the beginning. So, Steve Gamlin, how can people reach you?
Nice and easy. They can go to my website at stevegamlin.com, and that's Gamlin.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being our first man of 2023. You've opened doors on Simply Caroline. So,
Awesome.
but it was a pleasure having you. And reach out to Steve if you have any questions. There's this is a program that he has developed that is absolutely amazing. To everyone here today, thank you for being with us. And I will see you next week. If you have any questions, write to me at info@simplycaroline.com and I will answer you personally. So thank you and have a beautiful week. Thank you, Steve.
My pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you so much.